powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher, and of course, Football at 4 right here. You can check out the new Inside the Birds podcast with a look at the Eagles. And of course, they got a lot of injuries that they are trying to navigate their way through. They just had another one announced today. CJ Gardner-Johnson, we'll get into that, how that will affect the defense. Maddox already out, Davis out, we know Goddard out. All of those and more as another edition of Football at 4 is here. Adam Caplan is in the house, and he joins us right now on Football at 4. What's going on, Adam? How are you, buddy? Oh, that's my bad. Oh, there we go.
We here?
Yep, there we go. That's my fault.
Okay. No problem.
I got you. Oh,
okay, it was an interesting game, Mike. There's no question about it. That game Sunday night did not play out like most people thought. Mosher and I thought it'd be a low-scoring game. We had it being, you could say it was, but the way it went was totally not what we expected. So it was fun. Certainly, we knew the Packers' run defense was bad, not quite as bad as it turned out to be. I said before our show ended, I believe the Eagles were going to come and try to run the football, and they did, but it wasn't quite, again, the way we expected it. But again, the total of runs and the success was historic. It was really something, Mike, that I don't think we'll ever forget. And it seems like the Eagles, as of today, are still running the football.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people like that style of offense. It's funny when we talk about the style of offense, Eagles fans like when they run the ball. We'll get into some of the things they don't like and what they might need more of. But let's talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson. CJ is out with a lacerated kidney. We have heard this injury in the recent past. So what do we know about the injury, how long he could be out, and then how they obviously will replace him?
Yeah, so we're going to talk more about this on our show tomorrow morning, but my understanding as of a few hours ago was that right now it doesn't require surgery. Because if it did, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks in that range. Here's the problem, though. As I understand it, you've got the kidney issue and then you got a rib issue. Like when people brought up Zach Ertz when he came back, remember he came back very brief, like after a brief absence, he came back from a lacerated kidney. But there's certain levels of a lacerated kidney. First of all, to come back early, you can't have any problems with your ribs. So that's one thing. Number two, he had a very small tear in the kidney. In the reporting I did on this, I remember checking into it, and that's why he was able to come back early because there was speculation it was going to be long term. But as I learned, because these lacerated kidney injuries, they only happen a couple times over the season of the entire league, Mike, to tell people how rare it is. And a lot of them are quarterbacks who get hit in the side. And this one was interesting. This was what we call a high-impact injury, and it lacerated the kidney. That's how he did it, because you saw how Gardner-Johnson was stunned. It was very scary for those of us who saw it live. It was one of those, oh, my goodness, I hope he's okay. And we weren't sure what it was, and that's why he was going to get testing anyway on Monday, but they had to get some opinions on, in fact, what it was, and they got that on Monday, and the information came. I was so interested. I talked to a couple of people familiar with it, and I learned a lot about, because it's been years since I've really had to do any put any information out on this.
Yeah, and I know that Reed Blankenship stepped in there. I mean, is that the plan? Is that the best plan? Is there other options? Kevon Wallace? Is that right now what the Eagles are going to roll with, Reed Blankenship?
It'll be Blankenship. Yeah, he's a little bit of an older rookie, 23 years old. Typically, they're 21 or 22. He's got good length. He can hit. He's really smart. He's in the right place. And he just did it. Boy, that interception he had was not luck at all. It was scouting. It was understanding the West Coast offense, which the Packers run, Mike, and anticipating where that throw would be. It was just a remarkable job by an undrafted free agent. And quite frankly, he should have been drafted, Blankenship. He had, I'm told, some injuries in his final year at Middle Tennessee State. Such a lower level of Division I football, I understand that. But he certainly had good enough tape to be drafted. And he's got good size and he can hit, which you've seen from him. And now I would assume they won't be on special teams anymore, and we'll get into that as well about their very unspecial special teams. But this is a pretty good signing from a draft class that was small, but this counts as their draft class.
Yeah, and I know when you look at the positives coming out of Week 12, he would be one of them. You hinted at some of the other ones. Blankenship stepping in and, making an interception, making a couple of plays. But they had a couple of other positives before we get to what you alluded to as a negative there. But you talked about at the front, running the ball, offensive line, the run game. I mean, those two right there married had to be way at the top of the list of the positives.
Yeah, now I know this is going to sound negative for me to say this, but I just want to explain it because people need to understand the way players are coached. Yes, their offensive line was unbelievable. They're incredible, but the Packers had something to do with it. First of all, their tackling was atrocious, probably the worst tackling we've seen against an Eagles team. We'd have to go back. It's not just the pure numbers, 363, that they gave up, the Packers defense. Their alignment was terrible. Their tackling was terrible. Now, and their effort was poor. To run like this in today's NFL, it was almost like going against a college defense. Certain things have to happen. But then the major positive out of this game was how dominant their combo blocks were, their double teams were, and the pure fun. I was told that I guess you could tell this off the coaching tape. You could tell the energy that they brought once they knew that they were dominating. Sometimes, and we're going to talk to Trey Thomas about this on Sunday. Trey's part of our post-game show. What's that like when you're rolling like this? This has to be incredible feeling, because the Eagles really are. The great thing about this particular Eagles team in 2022, they could literally win any way that they want. But I would caution people going forward here. We're going to talk more about this on our Friday show, and also with you, Mike, on our preview of the game on Football at 4. They're facing maybe not the best front seven. They're one of the top 3. Jeffrey Simmons, who's a home wrecker, an absolute superstar defensive tackle who's going to get a big contract extension next year. He's a former first-round pick who's a tremendous football player. They got a great front, Tennessee. So trust me, if the Eagles run for over 150 in this game, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, this is a Titans team that has a lot of interest, and we'll get a little look at them in just a minute. What about the Eagles and some of the positives on the defensive side of the ball before we look on that negative, and that defensive line group as a whole, when you look at what they did in that game? Because a lot of people would say, hey, Green Bay ran the ball very well, but they did get 3 sacks. They helped force some turnovers there. So how would you take a look at where the Eagles' defensive line is now in that second week with Joseph and Sue at it?
I know the run defense was not good. They gave up over 5 yards per carry to the running backs. That's not good, certainly. And then Aaron Jones's touchdown was called back on a very questionable call on Jenkins, who was playing right tackle, moved to guard for that game. But yeah, that's got to be shored up. Joseph did not play as well as he did the previous game. He got stood up a little bit, which is not good. But that's what I was told is the technique that was not great by their linemen, easily corrected. Their alignment was good. It was the technique was not so good, we were told. So that'll be better. But their pass rush, Fletcher Cox, great energy again after the bad game a couple weeks ago. The last 2 games have been good. They've been productive. The Washington game was not good. This game was very good for him. It wasn't just the flash plays. It was the consistency of his approach. See, Mike, the criticism of Cox over years was, where's the effort sometimes with him? Because if he wants to, and we saw in this game, he could be almost unblockable. And he came out with a passion and an energy, which was important. And he had some quality rushes, and he had some good not run blitzes, but good run defenses. So it was good to see that. And I just think the run defense, though, not him specifically, but overall, has got to be better because it's coming here with Derrick Henry. Everybody knows what's coming. Well,
let's talk about the run defense and some of the negatives that we saw from them. Why are they struggling, as you kind of hinted at a little bit there? But, is it the personnel? Is it the effort? Is that which one is to you more of the factor here?
I just think it's the run fits. Jonathan Gannon actually alluded to it in his press conference earlier today. From what I'm told, that's spot on. They just have to They just have to make sure that they're not trying to grab, that their technique is better. And what also happened is they gashed them a little bit with their 4-man front. We knew it was interesting watching the game. I'm like, why is Milton Williams out there? Well, what Gannon he didn't mention Williams, but what happened is when you're going quickly, the Packers did a little bit of a hurry up. And it was hard for the Eagles to adjust. It was hard for the Eagles to change personnel because I watching the game, I couldn't understand why Milton Williams is in there on early downs. It was just because they could not change up a little bit. They'll get that straightened out. And also, I think we have to be realistic. To think that Sue and Joseph are going to be great every week from not being with the team for 10 months, I mean, it's just not realistic. They had not played, remember, since last January until they signed with the Eagles. So that'll be better. And then also we'll see with Jordan Davis. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, Mike, I don't see him playing this Sunday against the Titans. He's pretty much going to have to work. And remember, they adjusted that rule. You now could come back. When they designate you for return, you literally can return that week, whereas you had to wait you had to wait a couple weeks to come back. They adjusted that rule last year.
Yeah, we'll talk with Adam Caplan, Football at 4. Give me your thoughts and what you're hearing about this passing attack without Goedert now that we have seen it for 2 weeks. How did it change from the first week to the second week?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. Most of Hurts's runs were design runs, but the other ones that were not, I think he kind of bailed because I just think I can't speak for him. This is just me speaking. I've run it by someone who would know. Because the Packers' run fits were so bad, and he kind of noticed it early on. He saw their alignment. It's almost like he had to predetermine, I'm going to run here, because there's room here for me to get 10 or 15 yards. Whereas if Goddard's playing, you're not doing that. I just think because Goddard, they've got nothing out of their tight ends for 2 weeks. Let's call it like it is. The Sanders was used a little bit in the passing game. He had 3 catches, which all of them were nice, but they're missing something here. Quez Watkins obviously has gotten a little bit more usage, but he's not what we call commanding the football like Goddard would. I just think that's part of it of Hurts running. And by the way, I cannot blame Hurts running. His running is so dynamic now. We didn't see this last year, though. You could say they were more explosive, but his ability to run to the right and cut back to the left, Mike, is extraordinary. It's really remarkable. And the guy, you can't blame him. Now, I know the number of runs has people concerned, and that's fair. Over time, this is not sustainable because you're gonna see him on the sidelines. If he's running the ball 15, 16 times per week, he'll never last. No running quarterback. I know talking the Bills, they design a lot of runs for him, but there's sometimes they wish he wouldn't run, but they trust his judgment because he's so big. But it's a cumulative amount of hits over time that sidelines quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking yesterday, Adam, about how this is the style of quarterback that's coming into the league and that it might make teams have to reevaluate when they start to look for that next quarterback. These guys' shelf lives might only be 5 to 7 years as opposed to you get a guy like Brady, Rodgers, Breeze, Manning, Roethlisberger, who lasted 15 years.
Well, and Roethlisberger was toast. Late in his career, Mike, they really should have cut the cord 2 years before he retired. And Cam Newton, Ron Jaworski, when we work at ESPN together, I remember Draws going on SportsCenter. He had this amazing number. I don't know where he got it. It was Cam Newton's times that he got hit and thrown to the ground. It was like mind-boggling how many times he got hit in his career. Well, no wonder his right shoulder was shot. Roethlisberger's shoulder was shot. Remember, he had the elbow surgery. You can't keep doing this, but Hurts is early in his career. And McNabb went through this. Remember, he basically stopped running. He would only run when he had to. When he was pressured and there was no one open.
Yeah.
So eventually Hurts will get out of this, but it's hard. You have to trust the guy's judgment. He's been so dynamic, and he's built so well. I remember John DeFilippo, the former Eagles quarterback coach, telling me that when he scouted Hurts, he was so impressed with his toughness because I guess he got hit a lot at Oklahoma his 1 year there. And that's kind of why I think John City gave him a 3rd-round grade because of his toughness.
Adam, obviously the kickoff teams, the special teams have been a big problem. So Mike Clay spoke today. He said, hey, we're 10-1 still, but it's not that easy, right? They're going to have to. So when we don't talk special teams a lot. What are some of the breakdowns and issues that they're happening? And are these things, is this, hey, they just simply don't have special teams quality players, or is it something that we don't hear a lot about the special teams coach and scheme all that much?
Someone told me this, and I don't have time to check. A league source gave me this. He said the Eagles have one of the youngest kickoff coverage teams in the NFL, and I don't know how to substantiate that because I don't have the numbers for all 32 teams. But if you just look at it, Kyron Johnson, a rookie, okay? Nakobe Dean, a rookie. Zach McPherson, a second-year player. You can go through all the guys. Josh Jobe, when he plays. Andre Sachre is a young player. Gavon Wallace, a young player. Sean Bradley, a third-year player. Yeah, they're very young there. Now, is that an excuse? I'm just giving you facts. But the gaps that they're getting, I mean, they're to the point now, Mike. You know how most guys don't return, even when you're able to kick, even when you're able to return it 5 years deep in your end zone, you don't take it out anymore. Players are told not to. Just let's get a touchback and take it to the 25. The coverage teams are so bad on kickoffs. You're going to see guys take it 8 yards deep.
Yeah,
they're 10 yards right before the end line. You're going to see this. They have the worst coverage units on kickoff returns now. It's bad. Sirianni's not even covering. He won't mention Mike Clay by name. He used to say, "Oh, statistically, we're somewhere in the middle. We want to be better than that." Well, what Sirianni didn't say, there's one bad return per game, one bad kickoff return coverage per game. Now it's so bad, Mike, you can't cover it up. And to his credit, he's not even covering for Mike Clay or any of the coaches or the players. It's got to be better. And Sirianni, as he said, and he's right, he oversees all of it because it all comes back to him. And whatever their approach is obviously poor. It's not working. Now, the other thing is here, and I know you had Malcolm Jenkins on, and Malcolm, as you know, played on specials. They have to make a decision. I know Mike Martz, the former Rams head coach, didn't want his starters on special teams. Well, guess what? They're going to have to start doing it. And starters are one of your 11 starting players on each side of the football. You're going to have to do that. I don't know what else you could say.
Yeah, when Malcolm was on right before you came on, and obviously with the timeliness of Gardner-Johnson being out, I mean, are the Eagles comfortable with playing a guy like Blankenship? As you just said, he's going to have to play special. He's a special teamer. He's one of the better ones they have, and he's now going to play. But do they stick with what they have there, or do they look for a veteran guy and maybe get the urge to call a guy like Malcolm Jenkins to play safety?
Well, you can't. Remember Colt Anderson, who made his hay on special teams. The only reason why he was really playing. Maragos also, who was a Pro Bowl special teams player, who they would really never. They only played safety if everyone else was out. In fact, when Maragos played safety, if you remember, he would play 25 yards deep.
Yeah,
there was a joke. Like I remember putting it on Twitter. He was playing so deep it was unbelievable. But yeah, you can do that. You could go out and sign a safety or a corner or linebacker on the street who's great at specials. You can do that, and that would be smart. But that's your only other alternative is go to free agency.
Nope. Malcolm said he said that he's comfortable watching, but he seemed like he left the door open just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't see it happening because he hasn't. You got to give him time to get in shape. What they need is something now. This kid, Mike, they need immediate help. They don't need help 2 or 3 weeks from now. They need help right now.
He also brought up an interesting thing, and Adam, we'll get you out on this. Fans, the one thing they seem to always argue. You need to blitz more. You have to more blitzes. You got to send more blitzes. I asked Malcolm about that. I said, do you think John Gannon specifically needs to blitz more? And he flat out said, I don't. Do you agree with Malcolm that this team does not need to get more pressure?
Here's the thing. The scheme that they're running, which is the Fangio scheme, it does not feature a lot of blitzing. It's all about your 5-man front. The way they do it, you have 3 down linemen, 2 overhangs, sometimes a 4-man front, 1 overhang, which they did last year, and then play coverage in the back. It's not about blitzing. I'm sorry. If you really want to learn football, understand the way the scheme is. I've talked. We were very lucky enough to talk to. I think it was 3 weeks ago. I talked to someone who coached for Vic, who explained to me that people think that Philly will blitz because they don't. That's not the philosophy of that scheme. It's to win with great tight zone match, mirror match coverage, and that's it. And you don't blitz very much. You around 24 to 25% blitz. So if you're thinking they need to be more aggressive blitzing, good luck to you.
Well, I guess the detractor would say that's your scheme, but are you running the right, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is that the right style of defense to be running?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. By the way, you know how many teams are doing it, Mike, now? In fact, the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman from Atlantic City, he said it in his press conference. I remember getting the quotes and reading it on our show. He said he noticed the trend of so many teams running a 34, some teams that used to run a 43, and they're running a lot of, he said, the Fangio scheme. It's the trend now in the National Football League. It's not going away. And by the way, it works. A lot of them do very well with it.
Hey, listen, the Eagles have the third most sacks in all of football. So
9 in one game, but yeah, no, it works. But look, but what they have to, okay, I'm going to give you one more nugget. Their disguise does not always work, I was told. Sometimes it does. That part of the Fangio philosophy is pre-snap and post-snap movement. Some weeks it works, some weeks it could be better. I have heard that. But that's also a part of it. That's what you're going to get with this defense instead of blitzing.
All right, Adam Caplan, football at 4. We'll take a look at the Titans tomorrow. Adam will be back here as we take a little closer look at the Tennessee Titans, who are a very solid football team, and will be an interesting matchup for this Philadelphia Eagles defense. Adam, thank you so much, man.
All right, man. See ya.
All right, that's Adam Caplan, football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.